was used to make this production.
Peter Kruger crouched on the foredeck of the Valkyrie, a rust-streaked trawler that had no business being this far south. The Antarctic wind sliced through his beard like a machete, carrying the smell of diesel, salt, and something else, something older. Something that had no name in Afrikaans or English. Peter was 38, built like the rugby lock he had once been in Zanin, shoulders still carrying the memory of hauling mealie sacks, and later, executive outcomes contracts in the hot dust of Angola and Sierra Leone. Now he was here, paid in American dollars to babysit scientists who thought the ice owed them money. Behind him, the rest of the security detail stamped their boots. Boet van Zyl, ex-EO like Piet, face scarred from a 1990s RPG that had taken half his left ear off. Koos Killer Botha, quiet and deadly with a PKM that he treated as if it was a barbecue tong. And young Donnie de Wet, 29, still carrying the wide-eyed look of a farm boy from the Lowveld who had never quite left the mealie fields. They spoke English for the Yanks but slipped into Afrikaans when the wind got too loud. Hierdie plek is verkeerd, Boet. Boet muttered, spitting over the rail. Is te stil. Dis te wit, daar's iets fout. The scientists huddled in the wheelhouse. Dr. Harlan Vos, the chief geologist, was 52, silver-haired, eyes bright with the kind of hunger that came from failed grants and a second mortgage in Colorado. He had the maps, the satellite data, and the offshore account that would split the rare earth payout 6 ways if they found what he promised. Dr. Sarah Klein, the seismologist, stood beside him, 34, dark hair tucked under a red beanie, cheeks windburned. She was the only one who asked questions that Vos really didn't like. The others, 2 junior geologists and a paleontologist, who looked like he'd never seen a gun, nodded at every word that Vos said. Piet's orders were simple. Keep the idiots alive until the samples were bagged and the Valkyrie slipped back north before any treaty inspectors sniffed them out. It's an illegal survey, a black market minerals exploration exercise. Vos had called it venture science. Piet called it a lekker way to die if the weather just turns. They made landfall at 0300 hours on a nameless spit of ice 50 kilometers off an old Soviet station. The Zodiacs punched through brash ice, headlamps curved tunnels of white. The camp went up fast. Modular tents, a generator that coughed like a dying kudu, snowcats parked in a defensive circle. Vos wasted no time. We drill here, he said, stabbing a gloved finger at the coordinates. Magnetometry shows a vein of xenotime and monazite, with 9 figures. Easy. We're in and we're out in 10 days. All we need is a proof that it's here. Sarah frowned at the ice core samples as they came up the next morning. These readings are off. The substrate is fractured in ways that don't make any sense because it doesn't match any glacial data in any database. Vos smiled almost knowingly, the way men do when money is on the line. That's why we're here, Dr. Klein. Novelty pays, you should know this. Piet didn't like that smile. He'd seen it on contractors in the Congo, right before ambushes. The Afrikaners rotated watch, brewed coffee strong enough to wake the dead, and taught the Americans how to clear jammed M4 in -40. Sarah spent hours with the seismograph, headphones on, listening to the earth groan. Piet found himself drifting near her station more than duty actually required. She didn't flinch at his accent or the way he said "yeah, no" when he actually meant yes. Once, while he was checking the parameter, she handed him a thermos. You look like you're freezing even in that jacket you've got on. I'm born in the heat, missus. This ice feels personal. He grinned, teeth white against the beard. She laughed, a sound that could cut through the wind like a warm knife. On the 4th night, the drill had hit something that wasn't rock. The rig screamed. Vos whooped. The core came out glittering. Not just minerals, but something else, something translucent. A shard the size of a man's forearm, veined with blue light that pulsed once then died completely. Contamination, Vos lied smoothly. Just ignore it, it's to be expected. Sarah's seismograph spiked at 217, waking her up. It wasn't an earthquake. It was a heartbeat. It was something weird. She went to Pete immediately. She woke Pete gently. "Something's moving under us, deep, and it's not ice. There's something moving us." He woke the team. Boet and Koos already had rifles up. Donnie looked green. Vos tried to shut it down. "False positives. We're drilling tomorrow. Double shift." But the ice spoke first. At dawn, the crevice opened like a mouth. It started as a hairline crack between the drill pad and the generator shack. Then it widened with a sound like 1,000 wine glasses shattering at once. Blue light poured out, cold, ancient, hungry, and furious for waking its slumber. From the fissure rose the first cry of all. It was the size of an elephant bull, yet it moved like a leopard. Sleek body armored in plates of frozen chitin that shifted and cracked as it breathed. 6 limbs, 4 for speed, 2 folded mantis-like at the front ending of scythe claws. A head that was at all angles and compound eyes glowing the same blue as the shard. No fur, just ice and hunger. It had been frozen for 10,000 years, maybe 100,000. Now it was awake and not happy. It took the paleontologist first. One leap. The man didn't even scream before the claws opened him from throat to groin. Blood froze before it hit the snow. "Contact!" Peter roared in the voice that had once cleared a village in Koitu. "Suppressing fire!" The Afrikaners opened up. M4s and PKMs hammered and then charged. Boet put 3 rounds into one glowing eye. It staggered, rubbed its eye, then kept coming. Faster even. More fissures split open across the camp. 3 more beasts emerged. One snatched the junior geologist mid-sprint, crushing him against its thorax until the ribs popped like champagne corks. Vos stood frozen, mouth open, the map fluttering from his hand. I didn't know they were supposed to be dead." Sarah grabbed Pitt's arm. Vos knew the old seismic logs from the 87 Soviet expedition. Vos buried them. Pitt didn't have time for the betrayal. "Fall back to the snowcats. Sarah, with me." They ran. The wind had turned into a full blizzard now. A whiteout, visible down to 10 meters, maybe 5. The creatures hunted by vibration and heat. One slammed into the generator shack, toppling it. Fuel ignited in a blue-white bloom that lit the ice like a cathedral window. In the glare, Pete saw the truth. These things weren't just animals. They were something the ice had kept like a promise. Predators that had once ruled a warmer Antarctica before the world froze them into oubliettes. The team piled into 2 snowcats. Vos tried to climb in with them. Pete shoved him back. "You started this, Doctor. You ride with the consequences. Fuck off." Boet gunned the lead cat. Koos and Donnie covered from the rear. Sarah rode shotgun beside Pete, her gloved hand on his forearm. And without thinking, she started talking. She said, "Pete." He interrupted her, cut her off. "Save it, we're driving now." They fled east across the shelf, heading for the Valk moored in the lee of an iceberg 20 clicks out. The creatures followed. They didn't run like earthly beasts. They glided, claws finding perches where no human foot could. One leapt onto the rear cat, tearing the canvas roof. Donnie's PKM chattered until the magazine ran dry. The thing seized him by the leg and yanked him out into the white. His scream lasted only 3 seconds. Koos took the wheel after that, his jaws set, his eyes wet. "Ons gaan dit nie almal maak nie, Boeta." Pete didn't answer. He was watching Sarah. She was calibrating the portable seismograph even as the cat buckled. They're drawn to the drill noise and the generator. "If we can shut everything down." "It's too late," he said. But he listened anyway. Her voice was steady, and that steadiness was the only warm thing left. Night fell without stars. The blizzard thickened into a white wall. The snowcat's headlights carved useless tunnels. Fuel was low. One cat coughed and died. They abandoned it, transferring to the lead vehicle. Vos sat in the back, silent now, face the color of old bone. The creatures were still out there. Every few meters the ice trembled under their weight. In the cramped cab, with the heater fighting a losing battle, Sarah spoke quietly to Pete while the others dozed in exhaustion. "I grew up in Montana. Thought winter was bad, but this," she gestured at the white hell outside. This is something else.
Yeah, back in Zenin, the worst thing was a leopard in the citrus field. You could shoot it, but yeah, he checked the actions on his rifle. Yeah, they shoot back. She smiled despite everything. You're calm. How do you remain so calm? She asked him. Learn in the bush. When the shit hits, you pick one thing to hold on to. For me, it was always the next sunrise or a good woman's voice. He looked at her sideways. Yours isn't bad. She laughed once, short and surprised. Then the laugh faded and her eyes held his. If we get out of this, Pete Kruger from Zenin, I want to hear all about that leopard story over something that isn't freeze-dried. Deal, Dr. Klein? The words were small. The feeling that passed between them was not. In the middle of the end of the world, two people who should never have met found the only thing the ice couldn't freeze. It's dawn. If the grey smear on the horizon counted as dawn, brought the Valkyrie into view. The ship sat like a black tooth against the ice shelf, but between them and safety lay the last kilometre of pressure ridges and the creatures that have learned their ways. 3 of them waited on the ice ahead, silhouetted against the ship's floodlights. Elephantine bodies, feline patience. They had circled ahead. Boot killed the engines. Ons is vastgekeer. Pete studied the ridge line, a narrow choke between the seracs. One good explosive charge could bring the whole thing down, seal the gap. The snowcat could make it through if they went now, but someone had to stay and trigger the charges. He looked at Sarah. She already knew. No, she said. Yeah, it's practical. The cat holds 4, max with a gear. Voss doesn't count. I stay, drop the ridge behind you, then run like hell for the ship's ramp. You radio the captain to cast off the moment you're aboard. Butch shook his head. Pete, orders, Corporal, get out. Koos didn't argue. He simply handed Pete the last 2 blocks of C4 and the detonator. Voss said nothing. He was already calculating how he would spin this back in Denver to the shareholders. Sarah grabbed Pete's collar. You promised me a leopard story. Tell it to your kids one day. Say the O from Zenin told his best. He kissed her once, quick, fierce, tasting of salt and gun oil. Go. They piled into the cat. Sarah looked back once, eyes bright with something that wasn't just fear. Then Boot floored it. Pete ran for the seracs. The creatures saw him. They came. He moved like the soldier he had always been, low, fast, and using the ice for cover. The first cryovar lunged. He put a full magazine into its throat at point blank. Blue ichor sprayed, freezing instantly. It fell, thrashing, but the second one was already airborne. Pete rolled, felt claws rake across his backplate. Pain flared, hot, then numb. He slapped the charges against the base of the nearest serac, armed the detonator, and sprinted for the second ridge. The snowcat made the gap. Sarah was shouting something he couldn't hear. He triggered the first charge. The ice roared. Half the ridge collapsed in a white avalanche that buried the lead creature. The second serac groaned but held. Pete ran for it, legs burning, blood freezing on his back. The last cryovore was right behind him. Close enough he could hear its breathing. It sounded like cracking permafrost. He reached the top of the ridge, turned and emptied his full magazine into its face. It staggered. He slapped the second charge against the ice beneath his boots. Run, Sarah, he bellowed into the wind. She was at the ship's ramp now, turning, screaming his name. Pete pressed the detonator. The world became white thunder. The serac split and fell, taking him and the creature with it into the crevasse. He felt the impact, felt ribs break, felt the thing's claws close around his leg one last time. Then cold, deep, ancient, dark. Sarah watched the ice swallow the ridge. The creature's final shriek echoed and died. Boot dragged her aboard. The Valkyrie cast off immediately, engine screaming against the pack ice. Voss tried to say something comforting. She pushed him hard enough to split his lip. Hours later, in the ship's infirmary, she sat wrapped in blankets while the doctor stitched a gash on her arm. Boot stood in the doorway, silent. He got us out, she said. Yeah, missus. Boot's voice cracked for the first time since Angola. Piet Kruger always did what he said he would. She looked out the portal at the receding white continent. Somewhere under that ice is a man from Zanin, lay in the dark beside something that should never have woken. She touched her lips where he had kissed her. The ship rolled north. The wind carried no answers, only the low groan of ice that had remembered its old masters and would not forget again. In the infirmary, Sarah whispered the beginning of the leopard story to the empty bunk opposite her. She would finish it one day, for the children she didn't have yet, for the man who had traded his sunrise for hers. Outside, the Antarctic night closed over the Valkyrie like a fist. But for the first time in 10,000 years, something beneath the ice stirred, listening for the heartbeat of the woman who had escaped its reach. And far below in the dark blue, Peter Kruger's last thought, before the cold took everything, was simple, practical and final. Lekker, she made it out.